What's an SFW Google search that unexpectedly turned NSFW? I crochet. I was at work on break and Googled free patterns. I immediately got tons of porn pop-ups, like I couldn't close them fast enough and just shut the whole thing down. Apparently patterns versus patterns means young woman in some language other than English. Not sure which is. I never Googled it again and haven't even thought about it in about 20 years. Lol. Extra layer of funny. This was in a facility that you needed a secret clearance to even get into it. Extra layer of not so funny. We did have a guy actually get busted for child porn on his work computer, just a few cubicles away. I'm 99.9% sure my search had nothing to do with that. Back in the days of dial-up, my friend showed me a website called lavacalculator.com. You just type two names in there and hit enter and it tells you their compatibility in percent if they were in a relationship. Being in elementary school, this website circled around quick. I asked my buddy how he found the website and he said he was just typing random shit in the address bar and hitting enter. Me being a narcissistic fuck, I wanted to find the next cool website for all my classmates. I typed in luv.com and stumbled on a porn site. First time ever seeing titties and vagine. Distinctly remember seeing several guys with massive, like over a foot, schlongs fucking this girl up. In hindsight, kinda shocked my first exposure to porn was so aggressive in how it barely fazed me. I remember seeing these guys peeing white stuff on the girl's face at the end and thinking WTF is going on though and being very confused. Now, that's all I watch. Women do too. It's anywhere there's a thin strip of skin that serves only to hold things in place. A typical person has 3 in their mouth, tongue and both lips, and 2 in their crotch. One between their penis, clitoris and foreskin, hood and another between their near the front of the scrotum, at the top of their inner lips. There are also internal ones that can't be seen in your brain and digestive system. Back in 1998 when word of a live-action X-Men movie was coming out, I got super excited because I was a huge X-Men comics and cartoon fan. I was a sheltered 13-14-year-old and new to the internet. Imagine my horror watching the slow dial-up of Xmen.com and not seeing my familiar mutant heroes. If anyone is curious, Xmenmovie.com was the actual website I was looking for. This reminds me of a time at work. My boss had lived his whole life in a very small town and lacked an understanding of the world outside his. Great guy, smart guy, just not worldly by any stretch. 3 of us were arguing about the best way to tune concrete vibrators on a specific casting form when he says the answer will be on the manufacturer's website. Me and the other engineer went back to arguing our points to each other when we hear a gurgled gasp. We look over and see the boss's typed vibrator into a search engine and is horrified by what is now populated on his screen. We were kicked out of the office because we couldn't stop laughing. A few months later a search filter was put on the company network. I had a coworker who made a comment about how she looks like a villain from a kid's cartoon that I was not familiar with, so she told me to Google the character. I did, and we were looking at my phone together. I was like, yeah, you do look like her, and as I scrolled down there was some NSFW fan art of that character. I quickly closed it out and turned off my phone, but we both saw it. It was obviously an innocent mistake, but being at work in a corporate office setting I probably could have gotten in some trouble with HR if it was reported. I did this back in 7th grade. We were supposed to design our own soda can. I finished early and was helping my friend who wanted to make a blueberry squirt soda can. We looked up squirt in Google Images and screamed at the results, promptly closing the tab. Our teacher heard us and asked if everything was fine. We just said yeah and moved on. So as a kid we went to the computer lab so they could teach all of us how to use the internet and search engines. This was early 2000s and Google among others were still pretty new things. Well, they start by giving us this long talk about explaining how these things work and that we can search anything on this very specific list they gave us. The teacher was talking about how all the girls should search American Girl. Well, I thought that was unfair that they can search for American Girl but us boys couldn't search American Boy, so being curious I typed it in to see if it existed. Well, it was porn. I was once looking at the PDC Darts website and tried to search for darts.tv in Google. However, the browser decided not to type the first 3 letters and instead put in ts.tv. This then brought up a load of transsexual and transvestite dating sites and the faster closure of a browser known to man since I have my back to the entire office. Toys for a harness. I was a special education teacher and one of my kids wore a harness on the bus. He was having a hard time on the ride to and from school, throwing things, spitting on people, and generally making the bus driver's life a living hell. I asked my principal if we could buy him some toys that would attach to his harness and she told me to find them and forward the link to her. Typed in toys for harness. It was not for a child. Plus, I am a lesbian, I screamed, shut down the computer, laughed my entire way to the principal's office to explain myself in case the district called her. I found a darling crochet pattern for a banana hammock. In this case, literally a hammock that holds bananas. It hooks under the cupboards so the bananas aren't on the counter surface. My colleagues and I were joking about the banana hammock. And one of our colleagues, she was pretty young, not too long out of high school, and kind of innocent, Googled crochet banana hammock to find the pattern. It didn't turn out well. She was upset we didn't warn her not to Google that. But I still chuckle over it now and then. This was more and unexpectedly in SFW Google Translate. I'm learning Italian, and a lesson on Duolingo introduced the word for keys, la chiave. I was trying to figure out what the singular was to make a flashcard. The singular should be la chiave, but I was new, so I first guessed la chiava, and typed it into my Italian dictionary app to confirm. It turns out, la chiave translates to he fucks her. I have not forgotten the word for key since. I'm going to be vague on purpose, because I don't want someone else to accidentally bump into this filth like I did. I was looking into new equipment for a hobby of mine, so I was searching for models. It quickly led me to a child exploitation site that was hosted on the clear web. I always thought that you needed to go to the deep web to find that stuff. But there it was, on the clear web accepting credit cards. Funnily enough, this is how my brother was outed as gay. When I was in 5th or 6th grade, we did a project on researching companies. I asked to use the home computer to do research, and when I typed in G, a lot of other searches came up. Gay college parties stands out in my mind for some reason. I made an audible gasp or whoa, and my dad walked over and saw the searches. Although I was able to do research, my parents had a long talk with my brother, but he insisted it wasn't him. Took another 5 years for him to officially come out. But we're a happy family now and I have a great brother-in-law. I don't know if this would work or help, but when Googling you can include the minus symbol before a word and Google will remove any sites that use that word, so Googling LGBTQ teens porn sex naked topless, etc. would help reduce the chance of getting results you aren't interested in. You just keep adding more tags you don't want to refine the results. So if you did that search and still got lots of porn stuff, just find keywords in those links that wouldn't be in the sites you actually want and add those to the search. And also use quotation marks around a group of words to make sure Google searches for those words in that order and together. Or you can use and in caps, to make sure the results include both words. For example, baseball and Orioles will only return results about baseball and Orioles, so very few results will be about birds or baseball teams that aren't the Orioles. Kai from Dragon Ball. Loved Dragon Ball as a kid, still do. Wanted pictures of the characters to draw. Had pictures of everyone else. Search Kai and it pulled up a Kai strip club or something of the sort. Was maybe 12 when it happened. First pic I saw was 2 women with a tube going from one of the tushies to the others. Don't know what was going on there and still don't want to. Steak. It means having a boner in Swedish, so one time I wasn't sure how to spell steak and I wrote steak in Google search. For some reason, I used image search to make sure that it was what I meant. Safe to say the image results showed, to my surprise, a lot of hard dongs plus a few wooden steaks. This was at the university library, so I panicked, closed down my laptop and ran to my dorm, not sure what people around me thought this meant. Good news, I learned how to spell steak that day. Only expect this would happen if your language and location on Google was set to Swedish and Sweden. In middle school I discovered on like the 10th plus page of Google image results for bridges there was a picture of a naked woman taking a shower that made it through the school's safe search. I found it during a class, told all my friends nearby, and was basically the queen of 6th grade for a day. Teacher was less than amused. My neighbor recommended a video game emulator back in the relatively early days of the internet. He told me to search for Bleem. This ended up redirecting me to a website called Computers. Guess you know what that was about. It was pretty awkward as we were on dial-up and my parents were in the same room. Needless to say, after that I had to try the website a few more times when my parents were out because I'd really wanted to emulate the games or whatever. Puberty makes you do crazy things. I had a friend who had come back from a vacation in the eastern U.S. He went to some concerts and a couple other things. He also came across a local candy in one of the Carolinas and brought back some for friends back home to try. He didn't have the bag that they came in anymore, so we couldn't check the company name as they were quite popular. He wanted to say Sweets was in the name. I type in Carolina Sweets. I now know that is the name that a porn star uses. I don't know if it's still a thing, but back in the day, anyone wanting to see the official U.S. government website would need to go to www.whitehouse.gov. Unfortunately, most people would try www.whitehouse.com first, and that site was hardcore NSFW. At the time, I did tech support TWC Internet, and we regularly got calls from customers that blamed us when their kids, or the adults themselves, made that mistake. Edit. I just realized this has already been mentioned a few times. My bad. Leaving the comment though since no one else mentioned the tech support perspective. Looking out of window into garden. Ooh, I've never seen that bird before. Is that a sparrow? It's a bit different. Maybe it's a thrush. I wonder what a thrush looks like. Uses Google Images to search for thrush. As a librarian, I have used this story with my adult library users as an example of why context and extra, meaningful, search terms can help a search, or at least, prevent you getting the sort of results that make you want to tear your eyes out and set them on fire. Remember that screensaver that helped SETI crunch through radio background noise from space in hopes of finding extraterrestrial communications? Yeah, I went to download it on a work computer by typing in www.seti.com. I had to call my law firm's IT department and turn myself in for accessing porn at work. They found this quite amusing. Smile sex with extraterrestrial intelligence ended up being naked ladies having sex with dudes in poorly constructed alien costumes. I have this very distinct memory from elementary school where a teacher was talking to us about safe internet usage, and she mentioned a former student that was doing research on stars for a science project and looked up hot stars on the school network before they had filters set up and wound up with some naked celebrity pics. I have no clue what the fallout was for the school network IT team, though since it was the 90s and regular internet usage was just becoming a normal thing, I'm sure that they mostly chalked it up to a learning experience and scrambled to prevent a similar instance in the future. I'm also sure some students probably went home and immediately looked up hot stars on their family computer. One time I was trying to get a friend of mine to watch Magi the Labyrinth of Magic, and I was talking about it and I told him about this part that made me laugh, where basically the female Mick walks in to help the male Mick with his wounds and he is checking his pants so she gets a view of his ass. Nothing actually gets shown, but how it is presented is the fun part, so I search it real quick on Google and it ends up on porn. My friend didn't want to watch Magi anymore. In high school we had an IT task to do spreadsheet stuff with a fake company that traded vegetables. As part of it we needed to find vegetable pictures off the internet. Everyone used Google, and back then the safe search wasn't great and neither were the IT admins. Entire classroom was just full of people having sex with vegetables in some manner due to innocent searches for veg. When I was elementary school we used a program called KidPix and I had so much fun I asked my mom if we could install it when I got home. Well, this was back in Ask Jeeves days, so she typed in kidpix.com in the search bar and the landing page was a lady in a provocative pose barely wearing anything. I work at an aquarium and one of our jellyfish keepers was very excited about the crystal jellyfish they were getting in soon. A bunch of us didn't know what they looked like, so they decided to Google image crystal jelly. Well, turns out there is a sex toy brand with the same name and apparently more popular according to Google. Dildos are not jellyfish. Rainbow Bright. I was at work on a conference call and our coworker's Excel was just color-coded to hell and gone. Sparked a discussion about Rainbow Bright. We all thought her color pattern was a little different, so I took screen control and did a search. This was on the work network, on the work PC. All the filters turned on. First few rows were normal. Clips from the show. Regular fan art. The rows below, despite all filters, got NSFW pretty damn fast. Some cosplay. Rule 34, and the last image thumbnail was a cosplaying Bright with a disappearing color-matched bad dragon. I should also add I was the only guy on the call. Luckily the women on the call were all good-natured. Rainbow Bright became an inside joke with that group. Every once in a while I do a search but never on the work PC. Not sure what it is, but RB fucks with the Google filters. About 15% of the time you will get really raunchy results despite the safe search filter being on. When I was younger I had to do a paper on a famous city. I picked Tokyo and I googled on the school computers. You guessed it, Tokyo. The very first result was Tokyo.nl. I'm Dutch, and I thought, well, if there was a place where I can get some sweet information about Tokyo, it's probably here. I clicked the link and I was directed to a Asian cam girl porn site with lots of naked females on the front page. I didn't know how quick I had to turn off the computer and I had some explaining to do to the teacher and some classmates who saw me looking at this fun website. This adorable children's song I found on YouTube called One Little Bud. It's about flowers growing. I wanted to sing it with my kindergartners and didn't want to listen to it a million times to learn it, so I searched for it to find the sheet music. All the search results were Potter-related, like, should have seen it coming, I just didn't. Was trying to look up a show that was on Discovery about a chop shop in Bangladesh where they restore cars. They used an insane amount of manual labor as it was cheaper there than actual tools, stuff like scrapping all the rust off the roof of a car with the backside of a hacksaw blade. The show was called Bangla Bangers. Search results did indeed have a lot of banging involved, not so many cars. I was using my brother's computer and I got an ad for avocados, and then I wanted one cause I had never tried an avocado, so I looked up avocados and I saw this cartoon avocado with another avocado and the one half with the seed was being sus with an avocado without a seed. That was hard to explain, but you get the gist. Well, I was in class and the certain class I was in rows with computers on each table and I was in the front so everybody behind me could see my computer screen. Anyways, my friend is next to me and we were messing around and for some reason I searched Orion socks. His name was Orion, and went to images, so there I was looking at some porn star sucking you know what. I actually remembered panicking and failing to press the X to close the screen. It was up there for a solid 5 seconds and a couple people behind me saw it. Yikes. Back in 6th grade we were studying geology. One night our homework was to look up different geological words and draw them on note cards. Well, after school my dad had me do a bunch of things around the house and suddenly night came and I told him I didn't have any time for the homework assignment due. He accepted to do it for me. One of the research words for geology was cleavage. I still wonder to this day how that research went. Was writing for English class and needed to write a character from a different country and nationality, so I just searched German girls or Roman men naively, unaware that parental controls were switched off at the time. The entire screen was just full of nude bodies and BDSM stuff. Never doing that again.